Hi everyone, it's me. I love the sort of continuing degeneration of my hair as quarantine goes on. Okay, this is going to be a short little video. I sent out an explanatory email Sunday night about the outline assignment that you're going to be working on. I set the due date for tomorrow. If you need an extra day, take it. And the outline is meant, even if it feels like busy work, to give you a map for when you start drafting the paper. So experiment with putting some time in on this front end in a way that might seem kind of annoying and see if it helps you later. Not everybody loves to write with an outline. I find them incredibly helpful because I'm a nervous writer and I like having a plan. The other thing I'm going to do in this video is say just like one or two things about Shapiro and Zimmer. I really wish we'd been able to talk about those two in class, but you guys did a great job in your analysis of them. So I'm going to drop my whole face there. Here is our Brightspace page, content, and all of the assignment materials section is there. This is what I posted for you earlier. So the Confederate Monuments paper outline assignment. So I've got it on another screen. I'll open that up. I think before you do this, it will be very, very helpful to read over this document right here, the rhetorical analysis essay assignment. That's the final paper that you're working toward. I apologize that Brightspace is just such a weird layout. Okay. So the Confederate Monument Outline assignment, how to write an outline for your Confederate Monuments paper. The document here kind of goes through what I'm asking you to do. Looking back at the assignment sheet will be really helpful. I have given you some highlights. Remember that this paper is split into 3 parts. Part 1 is where you identify what you think of as the most effective uses of the 3 different elements of classical rhetoric in the readings. Part 2 asks you to identify less effective uses of those things in our readings. And then part 3 is just a reflection on how your own ideas about this topic developed. This is can be shorter than the other parts. I'm really actually just curious. Now, you can, this part here doesn't necessarily mean that you're saying that you disagree with somebody's position. You can really agree with somebody's position and acknowledge that they have used rhetoric in an ineffective way in certain parts of their article or essay. You can also really like a lot for part 1 about how somebody does presents their argument and then acknowledge that in a few places they didn't do as well. So this is all about how and not what. So on the document, you get a little reminder of what the ultimate goal is, where we're headed. We have read 6 things for this unit. In your paper, you have to say something about at least 3 of them. You can distribute those 3 any way you like. You can spend your whole part 1 writing about one person and then talk about 2 different people in part 2. I think it would be harder to write about more than 3. You can if you want to, but the more you write or the more people you pick, the less you can say about them, if that makes sense. Okay. You can even talk about the same writer in part 1 and part 2. You can say, Mitch Landrieu does a great job connecting with his audience and using logical historical documents. I was not a fan of his use of children. And you can talk about that in part 2. Okay. So what you're doing for Wednesday or Thursday if you need it, but Wednesday is use your first 3 homework assignments. Look for examples that really stood out to you and pick out the things that you thought were really good, things that you noticed were not terribly effective. You've got, hopefully, now concrete examples, and you're making a map for yourself. I invented some fake sources. This is a little bit just a sketch, and I just wanted to give you a format you could follow for parts 1 and 2. I just put in a fake part 1, just a quick acknowledgement, I don't know where I came up with these names, that say I wanted to write about these two guys. I thought that this one writer did great with ethos and logos, and that somebody else did a better job with pathos. And then the outline would just say, like, here's a great example from Smith of ethos. Here's why it's ethos, and here's why I think it works so well on his audience. And remember, or her audience. Remember, audience is always important. Rhetoric is about seeing how something works or fails to reach the values of the audience. And remember that you are also an audience. You can include yourself, even if, you are not the preferred audience for the American conservative. You're still an audience. And if you found his constant references to religion irritating because you're an atheist, you get to say so. If you found them moving because you feel like politics should make more room for religious considerations, like, you get to include that. But do keep in mind their intended audience. So this document just gives you an idea of how you might format your informal outline, and it's a lot of bullet points, basically. So that's what that is. And again, it's meant to reduce your anxiety for a later in the week and going into next week, because you'll have a map for writing your paper. It is not meant to increase your anxiety this week, so please get in touch with me if you're feeling concerned about doing this particular assignment. Okay, I want to say a couple of things about Shapiro, not too many, because I want to keep this one short, and a couple of things about Zimmer. Again, really wish we could have talked about these in class, but let me bring up Shapiro. So I think what I want to do here is point out what I see of some strengths and some weaknesses of these two writers. So Shapiro does this interesting thing where he points out something that the other articles have not, which is not so much what we should do about these monuments, but how we should be careful in the way we look at the debates over the monument. And he makes this really great point. He says that what has happened to the debate about what to do with these monuments is that a national movement on the left and a national movement on the right have co-opted or taken this issue and used it not as a way to solve a real complicated historical problem, but as a way to attack and demonize each other. And I think that's really smart, and I think he's doing rhetorical analysis of his own, and I really like that about this. And he even acknowledges that there's good arguments on both sides, which is great. Like, he's saying, like, look, this is complicated, but here is what has happened. The national debate has become this other thing, right? Where white supremacists and self-righteous lefties use this issue to score points on each other rather than really dealing with the issue. And in the end, he says, where is it? He says, if we're going to have a real debate about Confederate statue removal, let's do it, but let's not lump all statue supporters or opposers into the realm of saints or devils. And I think that that is an excellent point. My issue with him, and I haven't been able to put my finger on it exactly, is that he says, let's divide up this problem, and then he never returns to the real debate. Like, there are people who are making nuanced arguments on both sides of this issue, and he, I think, a little bit never really addresses the nuanced issue and might accidentally repeat the thing he's telling us not to do, which is don't just lump everybody into saints and devils. He might accidentally be lumping everybody into self-righteous lefties who aren't really invested in the issue and like white supremacist teenagers or whatever he calls them later. Anyway, I could be wrong about that. That's just an impression that I have. That doesn't make his article not valuable. It's just something that I noticed. And then I wonder if he's committing something called the fallacy, and I don't want to do that myself, which is where you see a logical problem in an argument, and therefore you dismiss the whole argument for having a logical flaw. I wonder if he is a little bit saying that because the way this plays out in the national debate sometimes in this kind of irresponsible ways on the left and the right, is he inadvertently dismissing any argument that says let's take them down as potentially being this kind of self-righteous lefty thing? I don't know, but I wonder about it. Okay, let me just say something about Zimmer. This is the one from the Jacobin magazine. And let's see. This is an interesting case where, you know, you guys aren't going to be surprised that I'm a little bit on the leftiness. And I think he's got a lot of really great concrete historical information here that's worth looking at. His particular angle is always going to go from race to class, just because that's going to be his jam as a writer for this magazine. And he's got the research to back it up. But a lot of you awesomely pointed out that you can tell in the language that he uses at the beginning, he knows his audience is with him. He uses pretty loaded language. Where he says something here about it being outrageous that people were arrested for tearing down Confederate monuments. Where did it go? He calls it a right-wing backlash. Outrageously felony charges have been filed. You know, it's not outrageous that they were filed because according to the technical statutes, they kind of probably did do some vandalism. So you were all really great about that. I just want to point out something that, where is it? It's right here. Okay. The flag's origin, he's talking about the Confederate flag, to 1861, shortly after the first armed conflicts of the Civil War, Confederate General P.G.T. Beauregard, after whom, along with Jefferson Davis, current Attorney General Jefferson Beauregard Jeff Sessions is named, ordered blah, blah, blah. This is just a weird, cheap shot. Like, first of all, this is the genetic fallacy. Jeff Sessions, it's not his fault that he was named after Jefferson Davis and this other Confederate general. Like, even if that's true, that doesn't make him a bad guy. Also, commentary, if you wanted to establish that you think Jeff Sessions is a racist, like, one has his actual statements and actual policies and work to draw from. Anyway, this right here, cheap shot. This is the genetic fallacy. It's a weird little pot shot. It doesn't need to be in there, and it's a problem. So, but it's something that you would do to an audience that would be like, yeah, I hate that guy. So that's a problem I see in the Zimmer. You guys did such a great job with both of these. I just wanted to point out a few things, and I really wish we'd been able to talk live and in person about all of these things. So, hopefully the assignment sheet for the outline already made sense, but I thought I'd do a quick run through and just say a few things about Shapiro and Zimmer. And I feel like these two would be a lot of fun to talk about in class. I hope everybody's doing okay. We're moving into some interesting times because we've been at this for a while. And I bet everybody, not just me, needs a haircut. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, I'll stop.